Hi, I'm Emily Summers, and for my Newbery Award winner, I chose Freedom Over Me, 11 Slaves to Their Lives and Dreams, brought to life by Ashley Bryan. And as I was going through this book, I noticed that about each of the 11 slaves, there is an illustration for them. They're beautiful, really detailed. So this is Stephen. And there's a poem about his life and his skill, what he was doing as a slave, and then about a poem about his dreams. So they're from the Fairchild Estate, and 1828 is the year. So instead of reading all 11 slaves and each of their poems, but I would just highlight a few so you can get an idea of what it's like. So I'll read Stephen first. Age 32, $300. Mr. Fairchild's apprenticed me to the carpentry trade. I work at the big house, building cabins for the slaves, sheds for the cattle. Learning how to work with measurements and tools gives me an inner strength. I seek out the secret life of each tool. Building is in my blood. I feel an independence in building, a feeling I never got from picking cotton. As my skills increased, the Fairchilds loaned me out to work on other estates. The different projects extend my abilities. I'm able to figure out complicated building designs, some that even the foreman cannot. My skills add to the wealth of the Fairchilds estate. I'm permitted to teach carpentry to the young slave John. He helps me in my work on the estate. John is like a son to me. And Jane. I love Jane, seamstress to the estate. I built the special sewing shed for her. To do our work, we learned words, names, and cloths and woods. We learned numbers and measurements. To teach a slave to read is a crime. Secretly, Jane and I taught each other to read, helped by my hidden Bible. Owners of the slaves think reading would give us ideas for freedom. We know that whether we can read or not, we all want to be free. Stephen's dreams. I was enslaved in Central Africa. In chained coffles, I survived a long walk to the coast. My family named me Yuridan, meaning studious. My father told me stories of our ancestors, the stone builders of Zimbabwe, the University of Timbuktu. These stories inspired me. My owners see me as their property, following their orders, doing their bidding. But through my carpentry, I feel an accomplishment and pride of a free man. I would choose to design and build homes for people in all climates throughout the world, and for Jane. Jane and I love each other. We dream of a proper marriage in a free land. Our children then would not be owned by others, slaves for life. They would be our children, free for life. This is Jane, age 28, $300. I'm a seamstress to Mrs. Fairchild's. Noted for my skills with cloth, I design and sew all of Mrs. Fairchild's dresses, tailor shirts and trousers for Mr. Fairchild's as well. I enjoy matching colored cloths, creating unusual patterns. This has brought many compliments to the wearer. Some deep resemblance of woven African cloths lives on in me. There were so many requests for my sewing from Mrs. Fairchild's friends. Mr. Fairchild's had Stephen build a separate shed for my workplace. I love Stephen. He is a carpenter to the estate. He stands tall and walks like a free man. Slave whisper stories they've heard of runaways, those who made it. Heartbreaking stories of those caught, returned to slavery, and brutally punished. Stephen and I have talked of running away, getting past patrollers and their bloodhounds. At Fairchild's grand parties after the guest slave helpers are no longer needed, they gather in our cabins, whispering stories of slave resistance and runaways. We sing our slave songs loud to cover our talk. One day, Stephen and I will live together, free. Jane dreams. Growing up in West African village, I was precious to my parents. They named me Serwa, meaning jewel. I was apprenticed as a child to my family's textile industry. I worked beside my parents. My eyes danced to the making of cloths. I thought of spinning, weaving, and dyeing of fabrics. It was a miracle of threads, threads becoming cloths, and cloths becoming clothes to wear. One day, slave raiders attacked our village. My parents were killed fighting to protect me. I was captured, enslaved in America. I stood naked, sold on an auction block. At the estate, weaving became my salvation. Working with cloths became the song of my hands. I have grown in artistry through the cloths I create. The praise I receive, I offer as a tribute to my ancestors. Stephen and I treat the young slave John as our son. We never lose hope that we will one day live free. I weave these thoughts into dream cloths of freedom. And this is John, the boy they talk about, age 16. When I was 8 years old, I was given as a birthday gift to Mrs. Fairchild's. I was born on her brother's plantation in South Carolina. He owned more than 100 slaves. Children born became the owner's property. I never knew my mother and father. We children worked in the fields like grown-ups. At the Fairchild's estate, I tended the cattle. I carried messages to the Fairchild's friends. I was given a pass to show the patrollers. No Negro could walk out of the estate without a pass. He would be brutally beaten. I'm treated as a son by seamstress Jane and carpenter Stephen. Stephen teaches me how to work with tools. I help him with the estate building projects. I want to be like Stephen, proud, caring, and intelligent. Secretly, Stephen and Jane are teaching me to read and write. They say, we'll be free one day, and you will teach others. My thoughts of escaping to freedom grow stronger every day. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. John dreams. I learned about Africa from the slaves with whom I live. I've known hardship, seen cruel treatment, and I've heard slaves tell stories of Africa's rich cultures. Stories of Dahomey, metal and clay sculptures, their tribal ceremonial masks and carvings. These stories and the African songs the elders on the estate taught us awakened the artist in me. Stephen and Jane saw me drawing with sticks in the clay earth. They gave me used papers. I drew everything, people, animals, plants. I hide my art from my owners, but I show my work to other slaves. They praise my drawings. They call me Osiri, or Yoruba, name for artists. They say, we're proud of you. This makes me feel good. I wonder how art came to me, a slave. Was it from pictures hung in the big house? Was it from art I saw in homes I entered carrying messages? No matter what work I do on the estate, even learning carpentry from Stephen, I think of drawing. I plan one day to draw freely from free Negro people. I will create loving portraits of their strength and beauty. Freedom Over Me, 11 Slaves, Their Lives and Dreams Brought to Life by Ashley Bryan.